We always say that, business is simple. It's just not easy, right? So there's not an easy path forward. And that usually means taking on these new habits, having these new routines, breaking some of the old habits that you have had, and really entering into a contract with yourself that this is my new life.
Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision-making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
I am Adam.
And I'm Tom.
And together we are Atomic Business Coaching,
where our stories are your solutions.
What's up, Tom?
What is going on, man?
Podcast time.
It is.
Yep. I'm excited about this one. And reason I'm excited is Tom and I have really been working to build out our programs, build out our offerings. We've been working with a lot of clients in many different ways, right, Tom?
Yeah, there's such a variety of ways. It's like one thing just doesn't answer. We tackle everything lately.
Yeah. So we have people in programs. We have people that have retained us working one-on-one. We have people that are just like, hey, I want to meet with you once. There's been all these different variety of ways we're working with people. And what Tom and I have really understood is there's certain qualities that it takes to be an atomic business. So what he and I have done is we always sit down and have time to really think about our business. You got to work in your business, doing the coaching, and you got to work on your business, figuring out where you're going to go with your vision, with your mission, making sure you're accomplishing it. So in some of the time we've allocated to work on our business, we said, hey, how do we define what an atomic business is? And Tom and I came up with these 9 principles of an atomic business. And really the way we did that is we looked through the decades and decades of experience that Tom and I have worked with other business owners and us being business owners ourselves, and really looked through and said, what does it take to be this atomic business, right? And we came up with these 9 principles. So Tom, why don't you let them know, what is a principle? Actually?
Yeah. So a principle is a proposition. It's a value. It's a standard of, that really dictates a type of behavior, right? We live by principles that guide our behavior, guide what we do, guide our actions, our decisions. And these 9 principles really are the foundation of what we believe will make up everyone to be an atomic business, right? As a business owner that comes to us and works with us in our coaching programs, that's the outcome that we're looking for, is for you to become that atomic business. And what that means is you're going to live by these standards, these propositions that will guide you to have an atomic business, which is a profitable business. It's a business that is moving forward and doing amazing things. And you have these quote unquote guiding principles, these standards that make up that atomic business for you and your business.
Exactly right. So we have 9 of them. And really what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through each of these. We'll give a little bit of an explanation on why we came up with them and what they're all about. And you can maybe, as you're listening to this, could see, do I have some of these principles? Do I behave in that manner? Do I follow those actions in these different principles that we've laid out? And you can also see, hey, am I lacking any of them? So we really believe that people need to have all 9 of these to really be an atomic business. They are in a specific order because we think that they go in this chain reaction to kind of be that atomic business.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, so why don't you start with the first one?
Yeah, so the first one is clarity. And basically, what does that mean? It's getting a clear direction. We all talk about vision. We talk about vision statements for our organizations and our companies. And, the most important thing is really what is the clear direction forward and getting that clarity. Because when you have that clarity and you have that vision, you really have a better understanding of yourself. You have a better understanding of your own identity, what your story is. And that gives you a freedom and the ability to make a lot of decisions that are very necessary to achieve that vision. So having clarity is a key principle.
Absolutely. Yep. Clarity is the only way you can start, right? You can't have that unless you have a clear direction.
You got to know where you're headed, right? I mean, we talk about this all the time. If you don't know where you're headed, you're driving aimlessly. And if you're driving aimlessly, it's going to make a lot of overwhelm and it's going to create all of this chaos in your world and create a lot of noise that you just don't need there in the first place. But clarity totally eliminates that noise and gives you a better direction forward.
Yeah. And when you eliminate the noise, you're no longer stuck. You can move forward.
Exactly.
So the second principle is what we call surrender. Probably one of the most difficult ones that any of our business owners have ever gone through. I know it's one of the most difficult ones I've ever gone through. And what it really means is, in order to achieve your new life, you have to give up your old one. You have to surrender that old life in order to gain this new perspective and take on these new actions of what you want to accomplish in being an atomic business. So it's very, very difficult, but if you're not willing to surrender that old life, you will never get the new life. So in order to achieve the success, we always say that, business is simple. It's just not easy, right? So there's not an easy path forward. And that usually means taking on these new habits, having these new routines, breaking some of the old habits that you have had, and really entering into a contract with yourself that this is my new life. This is the new way I am going to carry myself, both in my personal and my professional life. That is what gives you the ability to actually become an atomic business, by surrendering that old life and creating this new one for yourself.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the principles that most people are going to struggle with the most, because giving over to completely removing old habits that are just not serving you anymore. And that includes not just surrendering your old habits and the old way of doing things, but it's also sometimes surrendering those beliefs that you have and getting away from those limiting beliefs and really breaking down a lot of those internal barriers and those obstacles and that we talk about all the time. And surrender is something a lot of us do struggle with, because it can cause us to question our identity, right? So we said we're going to get clarity and build our identity from the clarity. But in that process, you have to surrender. And sometimes you have to give up a little bit of what you know in order for you to find the new path forward, to find that success that you're really headed for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Tom, why don't you talk about the third?
Yeah. So the third one is a favorite one. This is a favorite one. This is be in the zone of genius. And what does that really mean? It's planning and actions, right? It's planning and actions. It's being able to detach yourself from always thinking and just start making decisions based on your skills, your talents, your strengths, which allows you to be in this incredible state of flow. When you're doing an activity and time gets away from you, that's where you're being in your zone of genius, because you're working on something that is really utilizing your skill set, really utilizing the very essence of who you are. And you get into that flow, and being in that zone of genius is so important, because as a business owner, you cannot perpetually think. You have to give up some of that thinking and sometimes just start making decisions based in the things that come naturally to you, in your skills, in your talents. And when you think about it, you really have to plan and take the actions to get you to where you need to be. And as you're working on those plans and you're working in those plans the right way, you get into this flow dynamic, right? The attention is there's no need to struggle to get attention, and there's no distraction here. You are completely laser focused, and you're producing over and over and over in a steady stream of flow. And that's one of my favorite things. And this is also something we talk about, being conscious leaders in your business. A conscious leader is in their zone of genius. They know how to get into their zone of genius. And that means a lot of things, taking the right time and blocking the right time for yourself so that you can strategize and you can put yourself into that flow. You're not going to be able to do that in every little distraction, every little day-to-day activity. So you got to really carve out the space to enter that flow. So that's really what we mean by being in the zone of genius.
Yeah, I think the reason it's third is because once you get number one, the clarity, and once you get number two, you surrender, you know where you're going. You've given up the old stuff. You know what to do. So you can stop thinking. You can start doing.
Right.
Simple as that.
Absolutely.
So our third is what we call vitality. Okay. So Tom, why don't you start with vitality? We'll break it in half because there's kind of two facets.
Yeah.
Doing there.
It's really about the energy that you bring to your activities. And there's an element of prepping your mindset, of getting your mindset in the right place so that the energy that you are using to think through things and to organize yourself, get into that zone of genius, understand the vision that you're headed for, you've got to prep yourself for the work that needs to be done as you go through that. And when you prep your mind in that way, you don't exhaust yourself, right? Part of this is to avoid that mental exhaustion. So bringing the proper energy and utilizing your mind's energy, where you're thinking, where you're focusing, is really critical.
Yep, absolutely. And when we talk about vitality, right, it's what we're really trying to get down to is that everything you're going to do in business and in your personal life, it's going to take energy, right? You're going to need energy to do these things. You're going to need mental energy. You're going to need physical energy. So you really have to be mindful of taking care of your mind and your body. Okay. And when it comes to your body and vitality, like it's use it or lose it, right? And the more you exhaust your body, the more energy you get from it. If you're just lethargic and sit down, it's because you're usually sitting down and doing nothing and not taking care of yourself. When you're active and you're moving and you're taking care of your body, you will produce energy. Some people are a fan of him. Some people think he's a charlatan. I happen to like him a lot. But Tony Robbins, if you ever watched Tony Robbins, many people listen to him, but if you've ever watched him, he does this clapping thing and it looks like he's clapping. And he's a big guy. I think he's like 6'8", and he's always clapping, but he's not clapping if you look really close. He's actually slamming his palms together. Okay. And what that does is it creates energy. Okay. He also jumps before he speaks. I personally do this. When I'm going into a meeting, I'll do jumping jacks or I'll do squats or I'll run in place just to get my heart rate up. If I can get my heart rate up to 130 beats per minute, okay, I feel like I am creating this energy. And there's this thing that they say, it's motion creates emotion, right? And if you can get that energy going, it's going to carry through to everything else you do. So vitality is super important. We have to take care of both your mental and your physical energy. So it's a really, really big one.
And I just want to add to that, the importance of taking care of your body is we're not just talking about exercise, but it's also by what you're putting into your body, right? The nutrients that you give your body, because a lot of what we do clouds, what do we eat can cloud our mind, right? We don't realize it, but I've just gone through a little change in my dietary habits and I feel so much more energized because I'm consuming less sugar. I'm not putting myself in that situation where I'm damaging what's going on in my brain. And that's such an important thing of really keeping the energy of the mind in the right place, but also the body and being weighed down by the things that we eat. And if you take really good care of your nutrition and you take care of your body from a physical standpoint, you're going to have the energy that you need. So if you're tired and whatnot, check into what it is that you're eating and you're doing, because that's going to have make a big difference for you.
Absolutely.
So Adam, what's number 5?
All right. So next on the list is productive neglect. Okay. I'll say it again because you probably never heard that before. Productive neglect. Okay. So you've probably heard about, I've neglected this and I've neglected that. We just talked about vitality. People like, I've neglected my diet, or I've neglected my fitness, or I've neglected this thing that I have to do at the business. I know I need to take care of it. Well, it always sounds like a negative thing. We want to change that into a principle that's positive, and we want it to be productive neglect. And what this really means is eliminating all the nonsense that you're involved with. Okay. And getting rid of all that noise and being laser focused on what you're going to do. So when you got that clarity in the beginning here and you surrendered, now you have your zone of genius that you could do things. You have the energy to go through it with the vitality. Well, guess what? If you are distracted, you'll put all that energy in the wrong place. Okay. So what we're trying to empower people to do is to really neglect everything else except what you've decided is going to contribute to you achieving your goal. And what this really means is if you are not doing something that's bringing you closer to your goal, then why are you wasting your time and energy on that? So being productive can be neglecting things. And that's just neglecting the stuff that is noise or nonsense in your business and your personal life.
That's such a cool term for it. Productive neglect. Eliminate the noise. Eliminate that nonsense. That's awesome. All right. So what's the next one, Adam?
All right. Next is grit, right? So and this is the one. Yeah, exactly.
This is a big one.
It is big. So really, if you know what grit is you got to fight through things, right? You have to have this grit inside of you. You have to have this ability to just push through and push beyond. And really what it stems from is consistency. Consistency is very boring. Nobody likes to do the same thing over and over and over again. But if you're going to achieve your mission, what we always say is everything you do every single day is to achieve your mission. Okay. And when you're super consistent, you can achieve that mission. But that's having the grit. That's showing up every single day and doing it, even if you don't feel like it, even if you don't want to. Right. And the ability of this is not just the physical energy of doing these things and going through whatever the process is, the actions that you need to take, but having this mindset of creating and not consuming.
Right.
And that's a big thing that most people don't talk about is you can use everything that you're doing to either consume or create. And when I say create, I'm not like talking about artwork or photography, or you can create jobs. You can create opportunities. You can create actions, or you can consume, right? You can consume other people's times, wasting in meetings. You can consume television. You can consume reading journals of whatever your industry is in. So you want to be, when you have this grit and you have this consistency, you want to really focus on making sure that each and everything you're doing is in the creating mindset. I'm creating things. I'm making more things. I'm making more opportunities. And that's a big, big thing. So how would you summarize that, Tom?
I think, listen, it's the consistency in doing the work, right, is going to generate the opportunities. It's living in that. It's almost like taking that energy of being a creating individual, learning, looking for the new opportunities, and not closing yourself off from the potential, but not getting distracted by the things that don't align with your goals, right? And that's what we should always be asking is as you approach new things and you see new opportunities, the immediate question is how does that get me to my vision? And what work am I going to have to put into this and persevere? And see, I also think of grit as a perseverance, right? You're building that consistency every single day, and you have to persevere. There are going to be things that you do every day that you don't like doing necessarily, but that's part of running a business. No matter where it is, no matter what part of your life, there's always going to be something that you don't want to do or that you might find boring, but you have to do it. And that's where the grit really comes in, is in being able to achieve that consistently and persevering through it so that you can continue to find the opportunities along the way.
My easiest way to summarize is it's time to get to work.
Get to work. That's it. That's it. Absolutely.
Right. So look, now that you have 6 of these 9 principles, right? We're going through, we got our clarity. We're going to surrender. We're going to be in that zone of genius. We have the energy through our vitality. We're productively neglecting things, and we have this grit to get to work. Now, what do you have to do, Tom? What's number 7?
Well, now you got to get into the fun stuff. You got to be empowered. Empowerment is our next one. And what empowerment really means is, you're going to build a team. You're going to empower people that work for you. You're going to use your leadership skills. You're going to use your delegation skills. You're going to understand that you have to be the motivator and the team leader. And all of these things have to come into play as you empower yourself through building a team. And that's the end product. But part of it is you got to use your intuition, and you really have to tap into that intuition and understand and look for the advice that your intuition brings to the situation, because you're going to know who you can trust. You're going to know who you can bring into your organization. And when you empower yourself by being the leader and the head of this team, you also have the opportunity to empower other people. So it's not just an empowerment of self. And in atomic business, empowerment really is, how are you empowered and how do you empower those who work for you and with you? Because if you're not doing that, then you're falling short. Then you just have people that are very dispensable. And that's not what you want. You want people who are going to come to you, and you're going to want loyal and trustworthy and people that you can really get engagement from. And that engagement is going to come from you empowering them by allowing them to use their skills and their strengths, just like you use your skills and your strengths to not just run your business, but to surrender, right? And using those new strengths. But you have to give it to your team and allow them to do it. And then you'll have the loyalty and the trust and the engagement that you want from your employees. So empowering yourself is about building that team.
Yeah. And one of the greatest parts is the byproduct of the empowerment. So that leads us to number 8. So Tom, why don't you take, and this really, like I said, it's the byproduct of the empowerment. And what is the 8th principle?
So the 8th principle is harmony. And that's what this is all about. It's how do you have harmony between your life and your business? There is no such thing as balance, work-life balance. That is a myth. We've called this a myth many times. But you have to have clear boundaries between your personal and your professional life. And when you have those good boundaries, when you're using your time optimally in all facets of your life, you create this harmony that exists. And you're able to create the time for everything that you need to do. You create it where you have time for yourself, you have time for your business, you have time for your kids if you have children, you have time for your spouse if you're married, you have time for family, you have time for all of those things, and you have time to explore. And when you create that harmony, you don't have to ever worry about finding a balance, because that's not what we're going to reach. We're never going to reach a quote unquote balance. And that only creates more stress. That's part of that productive neglect, is recognizing that balance creates stress and you don't need that. So work for harmony. How does it flow? That's also tapping into your zone of genius. That's what I love about harmony is really when you're in flow, that's how your life should be, in a harmonious state. That's what it really should look like. So that's what it's about. Taking your life back.
That's a good way to say it, taking your life back. All right. So our 9th and final principle, this is the one almost all of our business owners didn't consider when they started. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
You sure?
You're testing something here.
Is everybody listening ready?
What's number 9, Adam?
It's to be aggressively patient. See, I made you all wait a little bit right there. So aggressive patience, right? Most people don't know what that means, and most people forget to be patient. So what this means, being aggressively patient, means that you have to put the necessary work in, and you will not see immediate results. You just won't. You have to trust the process as you're going through and doing all of these things, right? As you gained your clarity and then you surrendered your old life. Now you're in that zone of genius and you have the energy through the vitality to get everything done. You've really said, all right, I'm not going to neglect anything that's not going to bring me closer to my goal. You understand that you need that consistency through the grit. You've empowered yourself. You've empowered other people. You have the harmony and you enjoy your life and you're also successful simultaneously. Well, guess what? That's not the end of the road.
Nope.
Not where you needed to go. Just the beginning. So you have to have this aggressive patience, understanding that you will not see those results, but trust the process, go through what you're doing, and you will get there eventually. And these 9 principles together is what Tom and I believe makes an atomic business. If you can acquire, maintain, and increase all of these different principles in your personal and your professional life, we believe that you can have tremendous amount of fulfillment in your life and beyond successful in your business. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you thought it was something that could be a way to think, a principle to follow, a behavior to act upon. And what Tom and I are considering doing is packaging this together in a boot camp. We don't know how many days, we don't know how long it will be, but we think if we can help people in a boot camp really go through this, acquire these skills, or if they have them, refresh and reflect on what they have and improve upon them. And we want to do that in a community because we believe that if you can be around other people who are going through this struggle, who are realizing where they are in their overall life and their business, and are testing themselves by saying, I do have these principles. I do act on these principles. I believe in these principles, and I will make sure that I consistently give them to others and make sure I'm using them myself. If you're doing that in a community-based environment, we feel that you can have much broader success and also learn a lot about how other people adapt to these.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these principles really become better experienced in a community. I think that's one of the reasons why we have to get this boot camp going. And we want to do that because that sense of community, because when you have a sense of community, it validates you. It gives you a belonging. It gives you like this confidence too, that other people are experiencing the same thing. And when you hear other people talking about how they're struggling with grit or how they're struggling with surrender, it really can be an inspiring process. And that's really why we believe that if we're going to be atomic business coaches, we want to create atomic businesses, and we want that community to be recognizable to the rest of the world. When somebody sees your business and they can see these 9 principles manifested in your operation and how you handle yourself and how you do things, we really believe we're going to be able to influence a lot of other people to get to that place and ultimately achieve that harmony that everybody so desperately wants in this world. So I hope these 9 principles, there's some really cool terms in here that Adam and I have introduced. Productive neglect, aggressively patient. Those are 2 that just stand out for me. And I hope that they stand out for you as well. And I hope that you really take time to go through these and think about them, and hope you listen to this podcast a couple of more times to really get them so that you can embrace them and bring them to your business so that you too can be an atomic business.
That's great, Tom. All right, everyone. We'll sign off there.
All right. See you next time.